This is a model of the 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air two-door hardtop. Note, there are no B-pillars or posts located directly opposite or slightly behind the front seats. The A-pillars join the roof to the body at the front, bracketing the front windshield, whereas the C-pillars join the roof to the body at the back, framing the rear window. From the early to mid 1950s and through the 1970s, and perhaps a bit beyond, cars changed their styling every year. In those days, you could distinguish between models and you would be able to determine the year of manufacture at one glance. I seem to recall it was General Motors' Harley Earl who, after the war, as futures began to brighten, came up with the idea that the affluent American, of which there may be many, should be able to afford to buy a new car every year. After that, the auto would be traded down several times before it would be ready for the junkyard in 5 to 6 years. New models for the upcoming year would be revealed to the public in large full-page spreads in newspapers around or about the second week of September. As a kid at the time, you may be able to imagine my impatient anticipation as I waited for my turn at the paper, where I could lay it out on the floor, whip through the pages, and look for that first revelation. The Cadillac Eldorado Brougham, the Chrysler Imperial, the Mercury Park Lane, the Pontiac Parisienne, the Lincoln Continental Mark V, I believe it was, the Oldsmobile J88 Coupe, and so on. I will be back in a minute to continue the rest of the story. So, in September 1956, we were living in Barrington, in the brick house, at the foot of the hill, just below where the Shell service station is today. Right across the road from that was the R.E. Pinkham Chevrolet Oldsmobile Cadillac dealership in the building that still stands today, though with a different purpose. As it turns out, Mr. Pinkham was good friends with Dad. In that vein, and perhaps to groom me as a likely future customer, Mr. Pinkham called Dad up several days before the 1957 Chevrolet was to be revealed to the public at large, with an invitation that I could come up and have an early private viewing. With permission in hand, I bounded up the road, but crossed the road carefully, and entered the office and presented myself to Mr. Pinkham. He escorted me up the side of the building to the paint shop and unlocked the door to reveal the new car. Then, with the words, "Take as long as you want, Sonny," he returned to his office and to his work, leaving me with this magnificent machine. It was a four-door Bel Air sedan in medium blue, matching the color of the convertible shown in this picture. At that time, Chevrolet sedans came in three levels: the value-priced 150, the middle-of-the-road 210, and the top of the heap Bel Air. And Bel Airs came in a number of categories. There was the sedans, of course, the convertibles, the hardtops, and the station wagon. I will be back in a moment with the conclusion of Car Stories Part 2. Speaking of wagons, this pictured here is the two-door Nomad. See the chrome strips down the back and notice the sliding side windows. I must have spent at least 2 hours walking around and round the sedan, examining every little detail: the oval grille, flushed with a hint of gold, the hooded front headlamps, the chromed twin rockets set in the indented hood, the chrome strip that ran down both sides, dividing towards the back, enclosing a white insert that followed all the way to the back of the tall vertical fins, and concluding with the two half-moon taillights at the base of those fins, before I finally walked out and closed the door behind me. I went back into the office long enough to thank Mr. Pinkham for his generosity before exiting the grounds and descending the hill for home. I had dreams of someday owning my own Chevrolet, dreams that were not to be realized, but at 11 years old, everything seems possible. Not long after, Mr. Pinkham died. I remember attending his funeral. I sat at the very back, scrunched up in the corner. I've always operated under the principle that if Dad considered you to be a friend, I would consider you to be a friend also. Good night from Barrington.